Okay, welcome to Hopeifers. I am hoping that Brother Scott is going to be joining me. I was kind of on the move all day today, so I never actually talked to him. I just sent him the link and hopefully he's going to make it. So if not, that's okay because I didn't arrange anything. But let me tell you about my day. I went up last night with my bride Corolla to Calgary. When I say went up to the big city of Calgary, and got my wife on her flight this morning. So she left to go to Atlanta, Georgia to see our daughter, the Dr. Caitlin Nicole Friesen. And so that's all good. But I have yet to hear from them to say Scott's login. Michelle. There we go. Uh, so I have yet to hear that. Yeah, I made it safe, and here's my daughter. So I've had text back before with my daughter, but not with my wife and daughter together, saying they're all together. So, anyways, and then I also took my car down to Tesla and had quite a nice conversation with the lovely Tesla people there. Vicky loves my voicemail message on my phone, so she enjoys that. So she thanked me for such a fun voicemail message. And then I had to talk to her about all of the woes that I have with my Tesla because it has many problems right now. And so we fixed two of those problems today and diagnosed the other one. So I think we're going to be in good shape. The two that we fixed are the door handle, because I didn't get that fixed the other day when I tried to do it. Oh, let me see if Scott's contacted me. No, it's not him. Okay. So the door handle, for the last 2 months, I had a piece of twine and I had it hanging out the window and I'd pull it to open the door up. And then I tried to fix it on the weekend and I didn't fix it because the actual door handle assembly was just worn out. That was the first generation of them, and there's actually been 3 generations. So now I went from the first one that I'd been patching for, I think I fixed it 3 times in the last 5 years. And then now we'll put in the new Gen 3 one. Woohoo! So now I got the Whizzy Gen 3 door opener on my Tesla, and it's got a new windshield. And the other problems, I was pretty certain there's 2 other problems. One to do with the parking brake and a problem there. And the other part is to do with the air suspension. Excuse me. And both of those are, I said, I'm sure these are to do with a wiring harness problem because I've had 2 other wiring harness problems on that car. So I told Danny, the service guy at Tesla, I said, Danny, if this is not a wiring harness problem, I will donate $100 to the charity of your choice. But I did not donate to the charity of his choice because it was a wiring harness problem. So when that gets fixed, I got the part ordered. Man, that Tesla will be almost almost new. Well, not really. It's going to be old still, but it'll be still fun to drive. And today they let me drive a much newer, faster, cleaner car than my car, which of course I know what they want. They want you to come back and say, I love this car. How much is it? But I did not. But I did enjoy that car. That car had ludicrous plus mode, and that's where it has the really, really fast acceleration. So it is huge fun. So I got to drive a real nice car, and I got my car fixed that I can actually get in without having to pull a string or anything. So that's pretty good. And Scott Sweetman is joining me. Brother Scott, hey, how you doing?
Hi, Al. How are you?
I am well. I've just giving a little update about my Tesla story. So yeah.
Oh, great. Well, carry on. I'm listening.
Well, the long and the short of it is I had my car at Tesla today and I had a whole laundry list of problems. And so I said, these are my top 2. And then they fixed the top 2 and they diagnosed the next 2 that is a wiring harness problem. So they've ordered the part. So I'm going to get things all fixed up. So yeah.
So, how many times are you going to have to go back at 2 or 4 items at a time?
I think the next time is good. I'm the 2 are related to a wiring harness. And I'm debating where I can replace the wiring harness myself. Like that's pretty ambitious, probably. It's a $290 part and $1,000 of labor.
Wow.
$995. So and it's got to be where you pull body panels off to run the wires, and just I might just take it on myself. I might give it a try.
Al, I don't want to remind you of a painful experience, but you do remember what happened to your welding truck, right?
Oh yes,
Yes, if
yes.
that happens to you, I don't want to bring up that painful experience, but if that happens to your Tesla, I'm just going to find you fainted on the road somewhere and you're burnt.
That would be if what Scott is referring to is I had this old truck that my
It was a
little brother
beauty.
dude and I were working on, and we burned it to the ground. So that, yeah, I don't want to do that with the Tesla. So no.
Well, it's still out whether it was your fault, right? Like there was a problem, but
Oh no, it was all totally my fault. Yeah, I'd like to say it wasn't my fault, but no, it was totally my fault. So yeah, just like when I blew up the manure spreader. Did I tell you my story about the manure
no.
spreader? Oh man, I think you'll dig this. I bought this a tractor, an old tractor. It's like about a 1967 John Deere tractor with a cab and a big manure spreader. Because last year when we were trying to spread manure, my little manure spreader just blew up, right?
Right.
And I didn't have time to fix it, so I saw my neighbor had a manure spreader. I went to see about renting his, and I bought his manure spreader and his tractor. But I hadn't driven it at all, right? Last year, Johnny drove it, and I never drove it. So this year, I figured it out. I'm going to drive it, right? And it's got a really complicated transmission. But anyways, I've got this thing figured out that when you're running with the manure spreader, I could go in 7th gear. That's like almost road gear.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
why I could go so fast is because the seat had this big a shock absorber thing in it. So I'm going and bouncing in like that, bouncing off the roof of the thing and just like flying down the field. My bride comes over to me and says, honey, I think you might be going a little fast. It might be hard on the equipment. And I said, oh, no, don't worry about it. I got it, honey. There's the suspension in the seat.
Yeah, that's all
I don't
good.
have to slow down. It's
My
fine.
liver's fine. Kidney's doing great.
I'm strong enough. I can withstand this abuse, right?
Don't
So
worry
anyways,
about me, dear.
within 15 minutes, I'm bouncing around and the wheels are bouncing. Anyways, the manure spreader disconnects from the tractor. The PTO shaft pulls out, of course, and it's spinning wildly and then shears off and goes flying off into the field. Took me 3 days to find it. And then my bride comes to me and she says, do you think it would be inappropriate if I said I told you so? And I said, no, it is totally appropriate. Thank you, honey. I appreciate the feedback. So anyways, yes, sometimes I get a little overzealous.
Well, you had a manure spreader, but do you know what a honey wagon is?
Yes,
Yeah.
for the
So
liquid stuff.
usually
Yeah,
it's pigs, right? So it's
yeah,
it's liquid manure.
yes.
And so there was a neighbor farmer, and he had a pig farm, and so he'd be out spreading his with his honey wagon, but he had a tractor with no cab on it.
Oh,
And so whenever he turned short with the way the PTO and everything worked on it, he would get sprayed, of course, which
oh,
he worked around pigs all day. He wore coveralls and a hat. He didn't care, right? But one day I ran into him in town and he was getting lunch and everyone was standing quite a ways back from him, right? Because he had just come in off the field. And he's like, why is everyone treating me like, you know? And I'm like, man, you stink. What are you doing? And he's like, it's honest work. I was just out there working. I'm like, yeah, but you get sprayed all the time and you're used to it. But we were horse people, and of course, horses didn't smell. I could walk into a barn and it just smelled like horses. Went into a pig barn and it was like, whoa! It's opposite for him, right? In his pig
yeah,
barn, it was just normal. And when he came in a horse barn, it was like, whoa, what's that? Right? It's what you get used to. Anyway, so I said, man, you got to do something. If you're going to come into town, you got to change your clothes. You got to get a cab on your tractor or something. So I don't know. 1 or 2 days later, I'm driving by his property and I look out and I see he's on his old tractor, old David Brown tractor, lugging along there. And he's taken a patio umbrella and he's baler twined it to the back of his seat so that the spray goes on this big patio umbrella. It's too big to be a golf umbrella, but you get the idea, right?
I get it.
Like,
and
of course
duct tape on. This sounds something I would do. Oh, let's try that. That should work.
And
by the
thought,
way, I just got a text. I got a text from my daughter and my bride, and both of them are doing fine. They're together in Atlanta. Life is good. So,
oh, Corolla went to Atlanta.
Yeah, that's what I put her on the plane today, and they just finally texted me back that they're together and everything's all good, and yeah, so yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah,
I,
so
I
she's
didn't
gonna
I,
stay a few days and hang out with Caitlin, and yeah, it's great. We
I didn't
haven't
know
seen her for
Caitlin
3
was
years.
in Atlanta.
What's that?
I thought Caitlin was in Texas.
She was, and recently when she completed her doctorate, so now she's Dr. Caitlin
Woohoo!
Nicole Friel, yeah. Then she moved to do postdoc work at in Atlanta at, I think it's the University of Georgia, I think. But
Oh,
anyways, it's brain
stuff.
research, brain science, that kind of stuff.
I lived in Macon, Georgia, with a friend of mine, and that's not too far outside of Atlanta. A college friend that I met. I lived there for a while and stayed with their family.
Oh,
It's a really
cool.
nice, beautiful place. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I
she
always
seems
said
to like it so far. Yeah.
Southern US is a great place. I'd want to retire there. Just everything, people spoke a little slower and life just seemed no simpler, but people just took it a little slower, they kind of,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And I enjoyed that a lot. You couldn't go down, you got too much to do, or
Uh, I wasn't invited. You know what? I think it was a girls thing,
nice.
so
Yeah.
yeah, and that's fair. That's fair. And
That happens to me. Yeah.
yeah, and then for Corolla as well, she has never traveled on her own. Never traveled on her own.
Oh,
First time that she's going to do this. So,
oh,
which is
that's
actually quite funny
fantastic.
because I was telling my friend Mary at Rotary this, and she
Yeah.
says, "Well, you know what? I've only traveled with my husband, and before my husband, I traveled with my mom. So I've never traveled alone either." Oh, okay. So
It's like the girls completely different. I grew up in Bentley,
right.
Alberta, small town, right? And I did. I went to college in the US when I was really young, turning 17. So I flew fairly young. But when we were in Japan, we used to holiday in Taiwan. And so, of course, we took the girls with us when they were, 2, 3, whatever. And I don't know, points came up or there was some sort of deal, and it was a cheap upgrade to first class for us. So I
Woo.
thought, what the heck? I've never paid for first class. I always fly economy. And so I bumped the family up to first class. And so, and it turned out we were the only ones on the flight in first class. So we had first class all to ourselves on the same
Wow.
flight between Japan and Taiwan. And, the girls, I don't know, they were like 4 or 5 years old. And I was thinking how different their lives were than my life when I
Yeah.
was, growing up in Bentley at 4 or 5 years old. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah, the world changes, right? So it's not so unusual for someone our age or, someone as young as Corolla to have not traveled a lot
Nope.
unless they, that was part of their culture or family life.
Well, you travel quite a bit. Have Katrina and Sabrina traveled more than you?
No,
No.
no. It's only recently actually that I have lived in Canada longer than I've been out of Canada.
Right.
So I skipped 2 grades in high school and I went to college when I was just turning 17.
Wait a minute, you skipped 2 grades in high school? I didn't know that. So
Yeah.
you're
Well,
like a genius, and I
no,
never recognized it.
one was junior high school, and the other was in high school, and I went straight to college in the U.S. So I lived in the U.S. for 4 years. I'm terrible with dates, and then
Starting when you were 17.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I had to write an equivalency exam and do a bunch of hoop jumping and stuff, but it was good. Yeah,
Nice.
it was good. I was just a lazy student. It was my principal's idea, actually.
Okay.
I just, I don't know. But when I got to college and then university, I was motivated. So I actually studied, and
Yeah,
my
yeah.
grades
Cool,
went up, and it
cool.
was great. So yeah, no good. But anyway, so I lived in the U.S. and then I lived in England, and then of course we went to Japan, and so yeah, I've traveled a lot. Middle East when I was in Japan with the government there. So, but the girls, by the time they get my age, well, I'm sure will have traveled a lot.
Well, I know Caitlin right now is traveling more than I have. More than both of us have, right? So, yeah. She's
Yeah.
been to every place we've been, plus a whole bunch of other places, right? So,
When I went to Taiwan from Japan, and I would have been 40, late 30s, that was the first holiday I'd ever taken,
oh, really? Eh? Yeah.
ever. So all of my traveling had been either education or business related.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, that's sort of our time, right? Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. So
Yeah.
there was a famous philosopher, 18th century, and I can't remember his name, and he said the 2 downfalls of human beings is going around and up and down.
Around and around and up and down.
Yeah. Can you guess what he meant by that?
Round and round and up and down.
Yeah.
No. What does he mean by that?
Traveling for any reason. He
Okay.
felt that you could find everything in England that you needed.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And sex. He didn't
Oh,
figure that he figured that was a waste of time and energy, and that one's life was better served in the libraries of Cambridge and Oxford.
got
And
it.
so his whole advice to humans was to quit spending your time and energy and money trying to go around and round and up and down, and you'll get farther ahead and be happier in life.
Nice. Well, I hope it worked for him. There's some that would not think that's a good plan.
Yeah, I've never seen the logic in that, but
Well,
I
you
guess
think of like in terms of what you learn from travel, from the experience of interacting different humans, and what you get learned from reading a book, right? I mean, a book's great and videos are great, but from actually having an experience and kind of being there present with somebody, it's a much richer, deeper type conversation, right? And it can be so spontaneous where it goes. I was talking to the service guy at Tesla. His name's Danny, and then Danny, we were talking about his kids, and blah blah blah, and that kind of thing, and it was just it was a beautiful exchange that we had connected.
yeah.
And it's something that, like, if I just made a service call and dropped my car off and never had that chat, we would have missed that exchange, right? So yeah.
I do think that, in fairness to him, and I feel really bad that I can't remember his name, because it was one of those quotes that sort of sticks in your head, because it's always the odd ones and the really good ones that stick in your head, right?
Right.
And his whole point was that I agree with you 100% about going and learning and doing yourself. But his point was, is some poor schlep has almost died of malaria and trekked through Africa to bring back 60 pages of genuine knowledge, so you can read those 60 pages and basically gain everything that person gained without malaria, without risk of
Right.
getting
Yeah. That's a valid point. It's a valid point. I mean,
So,
look at now the content we get to assume or get to consume with like the best minds in the world. We don't have to, leave the house, right? I mean, that's amazing, right? So now, would it be a richer experience if we were in their presence? Yes. But can we consume that much more and don't have the travel time and don't have the inconvenience and don't, the expense related to that? Yeah, it's amazing, right? So
well, there
yeah.
was an experiment that I was just this weird age that it came through the school system, and I can't remember what grade it was. It was 2 grades, that the focus wasn't on learning information, it was on learning how to learn. So we could take calculators into tests, anything we could look up. We didn't necessarily have to learn. We had to learn how to find information. We had to learn formulas for extrapolating results, those types of things. And it was a really strange sort of perspective. And I know that education has struggled back and forth. Is it better like countries like Japan, where they learn rote information by memory, where they practice doing mental math, all of those things, or where you learn problem solving and creativity and those things, rather than dates and times and things you can look up? Especially nowadays, you can just ask your desktop assistant what date or who fought the battle of the Mackinac Fort in the Battle of 1812 or the War of 1812, and they'll tell you. You don't have to remember that it was Colonel Brock, I think, was a Canadian that was involved in that, or the British general, lieutenant general. Anyway, so what side are you on? Do you think which is better?
You know what? I'm changing how I learn stuff now, right? I think I believed in the past the only real way I could learn was actually from a written book and with underlining it or yellowing or that kind of thing, right? Highlighting that kind of thing. But now I consume so much more content by video, and it's and sometimes I get greedy. I'll try doing 2 things at the same time. I don't know how I think I'm comprehending, but it's kind of one of those things. If it's something that I know 90% of the content on presentation 1, kind of let that run in the background. And then it's like, wait a second, what was that? That's something I don't know. Pause this, go over. Oh, so anyways, I find that I'm consuming more content that way. And so obviously that's via a person, but not a person directly in front of you, right? So I do enjoy the opportunities I get to, as you do, have a conversation
Yeah.
across the table, and kind of, because that's even makes this is nice, this is enjoyable, but it's even better, of course, when we're across the table, right? So
Absolutely. We had a really nice meeting in the parking lot, although you were standing outside the truck, so you were freezing, and I was inside the truck, so I was okay. But yeah,
with
but
that's how these people at White Knight Media roll. Okay, we'll meet you in the Walmart parking lot and buy your
yeah,
own
you
damn coffee.
request,
Oh
you
no,
bet.
I said buy your own coffee, but you did bring me a coffee, so it wasn't like, yes, that was very considerate of you. Yes,
Well, in these times of restrictions and lockdowns, you have to be willing to go that extra mile, right?
exactly. That's personalized service right there.
Which is kind of the topic I want to bring up tonight. I don't know if you noticed behind me that I have a new house, which
I
is
see
quite
that piano's beautiful. Yes,
yeah.
yes,
I learned how to play that since last week. You remember I was fighting with StreamYard, right?
yes.
I was whining, oh boohoo, poor me, I don't like StreamYard. And so I said, okay, I promised you that before this week I would get on top of it and I would sort the problem out, because last week there was stuff going on behind me and I don't even know what was going on. And
Hey,
so
Scott, our Google reviews shot down last week, so we're hoping this will
this fixes
make
it.
amends. Go ahead, but what did you do? Tell
Yeah.
us.
So I didn't pick this background. So but I did put a green screen behind me, right? So
Nice.
if I turn it off, you'll then just have a big green thing behind me. But it works really clearly, as you can see,
Yeah.
and
You're
it works.
nicely delineated, and there's not all those goofy things coming out of your head and your shoulders and such. So
Yeah.
yeah, it looks
Well,
great.
and I was in a meeting, a business meeting last night before last, before what we were trying to demo crashed all across the world. Wasn't anything we'd done.
Oh yes.
And my dog pushed in and actually tilted the green screen, and so the whole background kind of went wonky for a minute. So that's best plans of mice and men, right? It can be foiled by a dog that is
Yes.
trying to get some attention. But I was going to say, and this is
Yes.
what made me think of it, everyone is zooming more, everyone is streamyarding and doing video. You, my friend, have some great advice for people on how, and it's, I know, but I don't want to put you on the spot because we didn't talk about this before, but you have some great advice for people. You're living your best life, best health, best mental health. Everything that I know about you is the best now in what, the 10 years I've known you. And you have some advice on how people, when they're doing video like we are now, how they can add to their health and their mental well-being. Do you want to share that?
Sure. I at the start of COVID, I was doing the same thing as everybody else, hunched over on my desk, kind of looking up at the screen, and and then totally disengaged from what was going on, that kind of thing. And I thought, man, this doesn't make sense. I want to try and be there for the speaker. So I want to get my energy level up. So I decided, okay, I'm going to stand. I'm going to stand, and that's going to get my energy level up. And it was good. My energy level went up right away. My mood went up right away. And I started to, because I couldn't stand in one place because my knee is all beat up
Right.
from just years of stuff. Then I had
Abuse.
to move. So as I'm standing and moving, standing and rocking, all of a sudden I start dropping weight and my body starts reshaping, my core starts strengthening. And so I lost a whole bunch of weight, feel fantastic. And most of it, well, not all of it, but standing is a big part of it. Standing for presentations, standing for courses, do it all day. Rarely do I sit. Way less driving than I've ever done. So those two things have made a big difference in my life that way. And then the second thing, which is the singing. Singing for me now has become a physical and a spiritual and a emotional healing type of a process for me. Basically, I don't do any other exercise. I sing.
Mhm.
And when I was in Calgary at the hotel, I stepped on the scale. It's 175. That's like, I haven't weighed myself for like 2 years, but before COVID, I was about 225. So
Wow.
175 now. And my highest I've ever been, I was like 248 when I was about 12 years old and about 42 years old. So 2 cycles where I hit 248. So yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. Just health wise. I mean, body positive people have to be happy with where they're at and work at getting to where they want to be, obviously. But you never stand still during video meetings. Like I meet with Al and we talk about business and we do the show together. And at first it drove me crazy. Like it was like, I'm trying to follow you on the screen and I'm like trying to catch your eyes. Cause it's a big thing for me. Like, especially when I was in Japan, there's ways in a meeting that you have to do certain things and you have to watch the person. There's a lot of etiquette that goes into meetings. And so you were like doing your thing. And now I don't even notice it. I just follow you naturally. Right. So, and I definitely advise it. I was looking up, I'm very scared of, and anyone who follows us has know that after I went in, was in coma for an extended period of time, that part of my brain was damaged, my pituitary gland, put on a whole bunch of weight and all crazy stuff. And I'm really worried that as I get older, I don't want to go in to be a senior citizen with a bunch of weight and health problems. Like that scared me a lot because as we get older, we wear our bodies out. And, I played football, my knees are, and then the extra weight doesn't help. And I've seen people who go into, old age, and 50, 60, 70 is not old age now, but I'm talking certainly getting up there. If you're packing on a lot of extra weight and you're not in shape, it's not a fun place to be, right?
Well, you know what else?
Challenges.
You know what? I was just chatting with a lovely, my friends, Ted and Rayanne today, and we're talking about health and taking care of yourself and that kind of thing. And it occurred to me not that long ago that a lot of times how I shouldn't say you, how I would react if I had like pain in my knee or something. It's like, oh, you piece of shit knee. What's the matter with you? What, blah, blah, blah. It's failing me, that kind of thing. Talk about it in a very negative sense. But so now, basically, I've kind of changed this around, and I have kind of a very thorough body awareness body scan. And in that scan, try and create as much engagement with my senses, all of my senses, to create as much pleasurable sensation as possible, and then direct that pleasurable sensation to any part of my body that isn't feeling perfect. Ooh, my shoulder's a little bit tight. Let's send a little bit of that love that way. And maybe it's a touch on top, as well as imagining that healing going there, right? And basically speaking kindly and treating yourself very kindly, your body kindly. And that's what a difference that makes. Same as, you and I, if you kind of went off the rails with something, probably it's more so me, but let's say you went off the rails and, I say, Scott, idiot, what's the matter with you? What, blah, 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 blah. That's, that might be how you talk to yourself, which would be totally inappropriate, totally wrong. And how I'd want to be able to say is, Scott, buddy, you're better than this, right? This is not your best work. And what do you need from me to get you on to doing your best stuff, right? So and that's how we need to talk to ourselves as well. Like we talk to our body that way, that we appreciate everything that it can do for us and is doing for us, but also appreciate and value. And I think we talked about this last week. When you can get to, I love me, I think life gets way easier when you can get to I love me. And why shouldn't we get to I love me? Why should that be any challenge at all?
It's true, but I know for myself. So when I first came out of the coma, I had a lot of couldn't eat properly, couldn't speak properly.
Sure.
And I was really positive. I was like, I lived, I'm going to beat this thing. And I so positive about it. And my gains were quick. The doctor's like, wow, you couldn't walk 2 days ago and, you're making laps of the ward now. That's amazing recovery.
Right.
And, just don't hurt your muscles and etc.
Right.
But I have a problem now that as, the farther I get away from that event, I'm very impatient that everything's not perfect. And the doctor told me, he said, it's going to be over 10 years before you recover from this. He said, don't even consider that you're going to have this in the rearview mirror in under 10 years. It's just not humanly possible. And, luckily I remember him saying that, because there's been times where I'm like, boy, I am so tired of this, and like you say, I start to get negative with myself. And it's like, I spent all this time, studying and making my mind, this athlete that I like to think it is, but didn't put all that time and energy into my body when I got older. When I was younger, I was really physical. Of course, grew up on a farm, a ranch. It was just everyday life was physical. And you start to get down on yourself. And like you say, you start using negative language with yourself. You start thinking, oh, geez, I've been trying so hard and I've done this and I've tried this treatment and, I've got to go back in for more tests. And I, to give people hope, I want to say that that's just a state of mind. There's, recovery is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can focus on the little bit I'm better than yesterday, even if I've gone backwards, if I tried, I know it'll start to come back the other way. Right. And it may mean that I have to adjust what I do. And that's okay. That's a win too. And
Right.
sometimes people forget that. I will never be able to do what I did at 20 physically.
Mm-hmm.
It's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
And that really shouldn't be my goal.
No.
It should be, as you said, to be the best me, 55-year-old Scott, that I can be after the coma and all the other things, the best that I can be now.
Exactly.
And that's if you can do that, and you sort of found the secret of that, and that's part of why I really like sharing this message with you on Hopeifers, is that you give me hope, because it's not like you were out looking for, you set on this great quest to improve yourself. It's something that you did as a process, right? Like I saw it happening as your friend. And
Scott, if I haven't shared with you this before, sister serendipity and sister synchronicity are my constant companions. Every once in a while, they give me a little hip check and say, Alan, move this way, buddy. This is where you need to go.
Yeah.
The universe is friendly. It's trying to guide me to better things. So that's awesome.
But sorry, that's fantastic, right? No, I'm just saying that it's not like you went on some super program or you said, my goal is I'm going to do all this stuff. You just every day. And I remember the times that it sort of surprised you. You were like, hey, man, you'd phone up and say, well, this shit's going on, pardon my language, and I feel better and I'm doing this and it's making things work for me. And as your friend, that was a great experience. But I
know that I was like a little concerned. Like I hit kind of turned a switch. I hit a switch and I don't understand. Like, is this good or bad? Like, it's real. Like, I feel good. Energy's good. But is this like, am I like, is this, that's the forbidden. Don't do that because this is pending death and insanity if you go down this path. But anyways,
there be monsters.
There be monsters.
That's right. Yeah. Well, and everyone out there, Al and I are not selling anything. We don't belong to some program or some group. We're just a couple of guys that believe that everyone deserves a little bit of hope and happiness in their life. And we've been fortunate in our own lives to experience things that we've survived and recovered from and become better human beings. It's a quest we're on every day. And we're on here trying to share that with you. So we don't have the answers. We just know what we've done and we're not scared to share that with you. Right, Al? That's what we're
exactly
here about.
Exactly. And you know what? If we share something with you and you try and it works for you, hallelujah. And if it doesn't, well, you tried something new. That's still a good thing. You learned something new, right?
Yeah.
And so that's excellent. And one thing on this, we've kind of talked about this before about spiritual beliefs, not religious beliefs, but spiritual beliefs, right? And we both have spiritual beliefs, right?
And religion's okay too.
Yes, nothing wrong with religion. It's just that religion is a little might be divisive, and we want to be very inclusive.
Absolutely.
Whether it's religious, that you have your spiritual beliefs via a given religion, hallelujah, or if you have your spiritual belief sitting on the back of a horse, or whatever way that you connect, that's good.
Yeah.
And so when you think about this, the more I think about this, like I've kind of, I guess, developed a spiritual belief. But the more I think about it, the more it makes sense. We really have options, right? I can be this sack of meat that's going to have pain and suffering and die alone and kind of be able to sort of, make relationships.
British to quote.
Yeah, sure. Exactly. I could perceive that that's it, right? And that's the end of it. Or I can perceive that I am a spiritual being, as are you. And as a spiritual being, we are all connected to the source of life that gives us life, right? And we came through into this world through the creators of life on our planet, the females, the beautiful females that are here. And so that's how we came through. And then we know we have this connection and that we're all tied to it because we have the beauty of beat and breath coming into our bodies all the time, every 4 seconds or so. And so we are all connected to each other. And if we're all connected to each other, it's a cooperative venture that we're all on to help each other get what they need along this human journey. And then we chose this path, right? We chose the woman that we were born through. We chose what we were coming to this world to do. So that, the very arduous health journey you've been on, you chose it. There's a reason you're on it. I don't know what that is.
I know what it is.
You do? Good.
Yeah.
What is it?
I asked God for it in by accident.
By accident?
Yeah, well, not by accident, but I read a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, and I read a lot of nonfiction. I also read a lot of fiction.
Right.
And I as a kid, it was part of my escapism, as part of dealing with somewhat abusive home life and escapism. And so I read a lot of fantasy, and a lot of it was these great sort of epic tales, and the King Arthur sort of stuff. And I prayed actually to be challenged with that overwhelming battle. Would I have what it took to face that and to ride out into the face of certain destruction and carry that through? Like, it was a question I had for myself that I shared with God or the universe or whatever one believes in. And I remember when I did it, and I was quite serious about it. And I was like, would I have personally? I've never been to war. I've never, at that time, never experienced anything other than discomfort that, our normal North American life. Sure, I had trouble. And
how old were you when you did this? When you had this conversation with God?
13, 14.
13. And so in essence, you said, in like looking at these the stories that you have heard, you wanted to have a huge challenge in your life that you had to prevail and overcome.
That looked unsurmountable from the outside. There's two things that I prayed for in my life that I received. One was the twins, and the other was this. And so whenever I get really down about this, I jokingly say to myself, and I've never mentioned this to anyone because it sounds crazy, but I asked for this. And so I've been given this struggle. They told me so many times that I was going to die, and I woke up from the coma. They put my mom in the hospital. Fleur had to keep calling my mom and saying, oh, they said Scott's not going to make it till morning. I think they did that like 6 times to finally, Fleur said, look, I'm not calling his family. Don't tell me if he's not alive in the morning. He's not alive in the morning, because we're all going insane here. So, and it was, my mom ended up going to the hospital because of the stress and whatever. So I think sometimes you have to be careful what you pray for. That's
okay. So Scott Sweetman, let's just talk about this a little bit. If that is what you prayed for, and certainly you have got that challenge.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Is it not fair to believe that you have also overcome that challenge? Like, many times when you're supposed to die, you're still here. Perhaps that's a challenge. You could say, hey, God, I've had my fill now. Thanks very much. I think I've proved my point. I think I've prevailed here. Or do you think it has to be to your last breath?
Yeah, I do. I think that's what I asked for. And so I'm still out there fighting, and I maybe that's my job. I don't know. It's not like I'm enjoying this. So I don't need a whole bunch of emails saying, oh, you should see a psychiatrist. You're obviously a masochist. No, I'm not. Actually, I don't enjoy this at all. But we all have our challenges, right? Yeah. And so this one, and it may be justifying it, but I kind of asked for it. I actually directly asked for it. I didn't say, oh, make me sick. But I said, I would really like to know what I'm made of. What this incarnation, what this manifestation of my soul is. Do I have what it takes to mount up and head out? Because I've read all these amazing historical accounts of people, and men and women and boys and girls and people that just faced these horrible odds, and they just kept going. and didn't give up. And I really genuinely asked myself, because at that time I was invincible, right? When you're 14, 15 years old, white middle class, everything's going your way. If you're in good health, which I wasn't particularly ugly or deformed in any way. I had the world by the tail, right? So it was like, okay, what can I have thrown my way that I can't sidestep, that I'm going to have to take head on? And the only way out of it is my own character, that just sticking with it until there's just no choice to turn away. And I asked God for that challenge, and I think that this is it.
Okay, so that being the case,
Yeah.
that's got to make life an easier thing. This is something I chose to do. This is a mission I said I signed up for.
Yeah.
So then, like tomorrow morning, this is sore, but hey, I signed up for this.
I have that conversation with myself. I really do. Exactly that conversation. When I start getting really down and thinking, it's been going on 10 years and I'm still overweight and I'm still can't do all the things I want to do and blah, all the, poor me stuff. I look at myself in the mirror, or I just say to myself, you know what, buddy? Thank God for unanswered prayers, but when he does answer them, man, you got to live with the consequences. So you asked for this, you got it. Now suck it up, get on that horse and ride out into that horde of barbarians or whatever, because this is what you asked for. So that's where I'm at. And I do take some solace in that.
Yeah.
And I'm not suggesting, I don't want anyone to get offended. I'm not saying that that's the way God works or religion works. All I'm saying is that 13-year-old me, with my head full of history and fantasy, talked to the big guy 2 times, said once, I want to be the dad of identical twins, because I read this amazing book where this guy had identical twins and he tried to connect to them. And there was this whole thing where their relationship with each other, and he tried so hard to connect with them, but he could never connect with them in the way they connected to each other. And I thought that character was so interesting, because it wasn't sort of a selfish love. It was like that he really wanted to be a dad for these twins.
Yeah.
They needed each other more than they needed him. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, yeah, that sounds like a challenge I'd like to try. How about identical twins, God? Got that. And the other one was this crazy epic battle that just is unwinnable, but you keep going anyway. So who knows? So give it a try. Hope. Why not? I don't know. I'm careful. I don't ask for other things. I'm like, okay.
Well, you know what? I'm not questioning your choices and questioning what you asked for, but I'm on the kind of the track for a lot of joy, a lot of joy and pleasure and enjoyment, and hopefully, and love and compassion and those kind of things. And I'm sort of eschewing any of the pain that I can avoid by making good decisions, right? We avoid pain if we make good decisions, right?
Yeah, I was like 12 and 13, right? So
I understand.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, if you had a conversation with God, you can have a conversation with God anytime, brother. If you want to have maybe a different deal, have a new thing, say, you know what, that was fun. I learned so much, but you know what, I want to change this up just a little bit now. Let's pray for something different.
Yeah, I think I've used up. I'm keeping one.
Keeping
right?
one.
So typically things happen in 3s, right? Isn't that the superstition? And so I'm saving that 3rd one. I may have already used it.
Oh,
I won't get into it in this show, but I may have already used it. I want to keep it for someone else.
Really?
If someone ever needs that, I want to keep that, because I sort of selfishly used the other 2 for kind of frivolous things. When I like you say right now, I'd kind of like to say, well, getting the twins wasn't frivolous, but certainly I would be happy now if God would say, okay, you got it, you survived, you're done, quest ended, yay. Let's divide up the hit points. All you D&D people out there will get that. The rest of you will be going, what is he talking about? But anyway, so yeah, but no, I can't unpray it, unwish it. I'm saving that, like if you were to suddenly get sick, or my family or something. So I only pray for other people.
Well, that's very generous, very caring of you. You're a very compassionate man.
Well, I think I by 2 mistakes, well, not the twins aren't a mistake, but the struggling with the relationship, which was sort of why I went at that, right? Like the dad was this tortured creature that was trying desperately to be a good dad and more or less succeeded. I don't know. Certainly I'm still trying to be a good dad. I don't know if I'm good or not. When I'm like 80, maybe the girls will tell me, or just spit on my grave. I don't know what'll happen. I've learned to like my dad a lot more since he's gone.
Mine
Right?
too. Mine
Yeah.
too. When he was alive, especially when I was like about, let's say, 17 to like 27, he was the biggest idiot in the world. Didn't know a damn thing.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden he got real smart when I turned about 28, 29, 30. And then as I went through, oh, yeah, geez, he got a lot of things figured out, right? And the things that I would make fun of him or be embarrassed, I'm doing the same things all the time now, right?
Yeah.
I'm having these conversations with people and being goofy and making them laugh, and that, singing songs, those kind of things. And those are things all my dad would have done too. So
Well, and it's what's interesting, and I catch myself doing this, is a little bit off topic, but we've talked about, that I had a person in my life when I was younger that was abusive.
yes.
And I don't have many positive feelings for that person, but I catch myself sometimes saying things that he said, like, "Hey, turn off that light, it's expensive,"
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah.
stuff like that. And I'm like, whoa, because there wasn't respect there wasn't love or anything. But we do imprint on little people a lot, positively, negatively, whatever.
Exactly.
And I do
Exactly.
catch myself going, whoa, that's his voice in my head.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
and like you say, with my biological dad, who I was fortunate and got to spend a lot of time with until I went abroad. Yeah, I used to compete with him. We were in horse showing together, and I remember the first time I beat him in the ring, and our relationship changed after that for both of us, certainly.
Mhm.
And yeah, it wasn't until he got sick and had cancer that we sort of swung back the other way. But
Got it. Yeah.
yeah, so have hope out there, all you parents. Eventually, kids come around to understand that you did your best, whatever that is. And don't you think? Don't we?
Oh yeah.
Use
You know
it
what? I've really I thought I was the best parent in the whole world until like a couple of years ago, and I started reflecting on things and say, "Oh yeah, no, that wasn't very good. No, that wasn't." So, anyways, I've apologized to my daughter many times to say, "You remember this time?
Yeah.
You and I said this. Yeah, that was dumbass. I'm sorry about that. So I've apologized for several things that I've done that were very stupid, and I think our relationship is better. And I think I also, instead of trying to support her in the things that she wanted to do, I was trying to I was trying to change her. I was trying to change her mind and do something different, right? Because in my mind, I had a different vision for her, and that's not my job. My job is support her and the experiences. The good thing we did for sure was give her, as you've done for your daughters, lots of experiences, right? They've tried lots of things. So they really get a good kind of taste for kind of what things appeal to them and what things they have natural abilities and affinity for. And so that's beautiful. Every child should have that opportunity, right? Try a bunch of different things, figure out kind of that. And because it's a whole learning experience of to what you learn about yourself and what you learn about the things you enjoy and the activities that you've tried. So yeah.
I think you'll agree with me. I hope you'll agree with me in that, looking back is, as a parent yourself, and then you look back at your own parents, is that 99% of parents love their kids so much that they would gladly trade their own lives or suffering or pain in a second, no question asked. Somebody said Sabrina's going to break her arm right now, or Katrina's going to fall down and cut her leg open. Will you take that pain? Absolutely. If somebody said one of you is going to live, pick, the other's going 6 feet under, pick me, I'm done, thanks very much. And I would say every parent that I've met, except maybe one or two, really are the same way. And so we're motivated by that almost crazy desire for our children not to suffer and
Mm-hmm.
not to be unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't come with an instruction manual, as you know.
No.
And so we're desperate to see them succeed, to see them be happy, to see them avoid all the things that made us unhappy and hurt us. And sometimes we just get in their way or in our own way
Yeah.
because we care too much. And that's not an excuse,
No.
and I think back in some of the stuff my parents did, Now, as a parent, I can say, oh, yeah, okay. I understand that now. You
Sure.
know, it wasn't this big evil you wanted to control me. It
No.
was like you were trying to put yourself in harm's way so that I didn't have to, you know, fall down that hill and learn
Yeah.
what gravity is. You were
Yeah.
trying to take the fall for me, but I still had to learn for myself what gravity is,
Yeah.
you know, and it's, don't you think we all go through that as parents where we just care so much
Oh,
that
for sure. No question. No
we
question.
can't help
And that's
ourselves?
it just kind of it you it's at some point you have to say, okay, this is I've my influence as a parent is over. And now I want to shift to, in my mind, this is the way I see you got to do it. I'm an adult talking to an adult, and this adult has different experiences that I have. They know things that I don't have. So I can't regard her as in any way less than me because she's not, she's more than me. She's got more education and different experiences than I have. Right. So then if I regard it that way, hey, you are a beautiful human being, which I happen to have some, biological sharing with,
Yeah.
and you know things I don't know. And then so if that's kind of the relationship we have, it's a whole different thing, I think. And I think that's what I couldn't let go of the whole parent thing for a long time. So
I still can't. And I don't think
wow.
I
Your
don't,
girls are younger. My daughter's
yeah.
quite a bit older than your girls.
I don't know if a person, and this could be living in Asia, it could be, you know, that I grew up with my grandparents basically, but there, I think that a parent is always a parent.
Hmm.
And so my mom was 20 when she had me, right?
Yeah.
She was married at 18, had me when she was 20, 2 years after they were married, had my brother 2 years after that, got divorced 2 years after that. So, and I always blame my brother. That was his fault. They were fine after me, but they quit after him. So, which
Uh-huh.
wasn't true. Had nothing to do with him at all. But I like telling him that.
Of course.
But she was kind of a friend,
Hmm.
and that I don't think I ever. Now that I'm an adult, I respect how hard she tried to be both mom and dad and a friend and all when she was 20, right? Can you imagine? I don't know when
Hmm.
you had your kids, but I had mine much later than that, and I still had no idea what I was doing, right?
Yeah.
You know, she was a kid.
Yeah.
I remember she chaperoned at a high school dance, and my friends thought she was my date. You know, because she looked very young. She's
Yeah. Yeah.
petite, looked very young, and so yeah. And I know we got to wrap it up, but I think we're both trying to tell people out there that as a parent, take lots away from what we've talked about today. But what's your advice for parents today?
Well, first of all, think of your parents, right? And forgive them for any time that you think that you were slighted or hurt or your voice wasn't heard or you were unfairly disciplined or whatever happened. Forgive them for all of it. And in a like way, forgive yourself for anything that you weren't perfect for your child or your children, because none of us gets parenting right. Parenting is hard, hard work. And you have to be a fully functional adult. Like, I think I just did this like a month ago, right? So when I was a parent, or when my daughter was younger, I wasn't mature enough to be a proper human being and a good parent, right? Probably now, maybe I am,
But
perhaps.
that like you said, you can't really fault yourself for that because we
No,
don't. You have to take a test. You have to take a course to get your driver's license. You can just go out and have a baby. No
exactly.
questions asked, right?
Yeah.
Like there's I don't know. That's one of the amazing things about the universe and our life here as human beings is that we can create life without any idea what we're doing. And
Mhm.
routinely people do.
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean I don't think any of us like we planned to have the twins. We set out to have the twins and we had them right when we planned to have
Answer to your
them.
prayer, not only just
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly to that. That was a surprise, but not such a big surprise in the end because I had remembered I had asked for that. But yeah, you don't know. Whatever age you are, whatever the situation is, and step parents or guardians or people that come in and fulfill that role, they're just doing their best too, right?
Yeah,
Like a lot of
exactly.
us have, you know, step parents or other people, partners to our biological parents that come in and fill those roles. And then they bring a whole bunch of, you know, guilt and all sorts of other stuff with them, but they're still doing their best. Right.
Exactly. And if if you looking back in your life, you had a step parent or a caregiver who treated you poorly,
Yeah.
who used violence against you, that kind of thing. No, wasn't anything to do with you. Nothing wrong with you. Nothing wrong with you now. Nothing wrong with you ever. That person had an issue. They had a problem. They had the issue. Any shame or blame belongs to them, not to you.
Well, and even that, I found out later that like I wasn't the only one. And
Mhm.
and so this was their normal way of dealing with frustration or anger or whatever triggered it
Yeah.
in them, which I assume they probably picked up as a child. I mean,
Yeah.
some of the stories that were shared with me were not stories that I would consider, well, they'd be traumatic for any child.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you know, blame is a sucker's game, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It never brings anything positive to anyone.
It does
There's
not.
no hope in blame, right?
Exactly. But we encourage you. We hope your hope has gone up incrementally. It has gone up a half, a 1 percentage point, we hope.
That's a
There
hope.
you go. Thank you. And sound effects now included, free at Hopeifers. And so we will see you next week. Keep yourself well. Stay hopeful. Take care of yourself. Love yourself.
Love and hope. That's the key, guys. Love and hope. Take care, my brother. Take it easy.